What's up guys, Enkiri here, and today we're going to talk about building big legs. Because if there's one single thing that I've accomplished during my time in the weight room, it is building a pair of meaty freaking thighs. I've peaked out somewhere around 27 inches around circumference, weighing just 170 pounds the last time I measured them, which was last year, sometime in 2022. I think it was over the summer. And that's somewhat comical for my size. You got a lot of dudes walking around at 200 pounds, and most of them don't have legs that big. So it's kind of comical. Whatever. I always wanted big legs. Don't ask me why I did. Sporting a pair of tree trunk thighs, though, was the ultimate symbol of power to me, so I started squatting hard and heavy in my early 20s in hopes of achieving this power symbol for myself. And with those 15 plus years of squatting and working my ass off, or in this case, working my legs off, I learned a few things along the way. So today I want to give you guys the formula for success here. The secret formula for building big freaking legs, massively monstrous legs. The plan of action that, given enough hard work and time and food, we'll take any pair of twigs and turn them into some monstrous tree trunks. And it's really quite simple. It only has two parts, in fact. Now, don't mistake simple for easy, right? If it was easy, we'd all be sporting tree trunks. But most of us are not, because the hardest part of this whole equation is actually doing the work, right? Not just knowing what work needs to be done, but actually doing it. And the work that needs to be done is fucking hard work. But anyway, you can embark on the two parts here that I'm going to talk about, the two separate parts, concurrently, or you can start from part one, which we'll get to in a minute, and then you can kind of segue your way into part two over time, right? And with proper programming, these two phases, they're gonna kind of start to blend together at certain points in time as well. But in my opinion, thinking of them as two distinct components, two components that are required to achieve the singular goal of tree trunk thighs, is a helpful way of compartmentalizing the different types of work that need to be done over time in order to get there, and honestly, if you want the freaking too long didn't read version right now in this video, it's really just the two parts are do your strength work and then do some high rep work to go along with it. And I just gave away the secret recipe 2 minutes into the video. Hey guys, if you made it this far, if you could do me a favor and smash that like button and leave me a friendly comment down below before you go, I would really appreciate it. The engagement is really helpful for my channel, so the more engagement that we can get, the more free, informative content, just like this video, that I can pump out for you guys. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of the video. You need to be doing both of these things, right? Again, either concurrently at the same time or cyclically, kind of back and forth over time. You need to be doing both of them in order to really build an impressive pair of meaty thighs as a natty lifter. And what I want you to do if you're watching this video and you trust in what I have to say, is discard most of the leg training advice that you have heard from enhanced lifters on social media, because those guys play by a different set of rules, right? And honestly, it's kind of funny because outside of high-level bodybuilders, even when you're looking at enhanced fitness influencer type dudes, my legs actually tend to be a lot more well-developed than a lot of these guys, even ones who are a lot heavier than I am, even in the absence of me taking steroids, and even in the absence of leg development actually being my primary training goal at this point. And I believe a big reason for this, and the reason why I want you to discard a lot of that advice, and you guys probably know the type of advice that I'm already kind of alluding to, but it's because a lot of these guys train their legs like fucking pussies. Now, they will disguise what they're doing as hardcore. They'll tell you they're pushing it to the limit. 0 reps in reserve, bro. Look at me busting my ass over here, ... on the leg press machine. Yeah, let's see how drunk we can get off of that body. That was more like a cock in my mouth, but let's see how drunk we can get off of that bodybuilding Kool-Aid, right? to say that leg machines are useless, right? Because they most certainly are not. They can play an integral role in the process of that tree trunk building if you want them to, but they don't have to be a part of the process, right? In fact, you look at somebody like me, I have spent the majority of my lifting career, pretty much all of my developmental years, training in a garage gym with literally nothing but free weights and free weight movements at my disposal. And I built 25-inch thighs weighing just 160 pounds that way, using 99% free weight exercises, not a machine, nary a machine to be found, right? And then with those same free weight movements, I grew my legs up to 26 inches at about 165 pounds, and then ultimately up to 27 fucking inches, weighing around 170 pounds. And I never used leg machines, not really, during any of that time. Just sporadically, if I happen to be traveling and visiting a commercial gym or something like that. So with all that intro and prefacing out of the way, let's finally move into talking about the formula. So step one is build some damn strength in your legs, man. Most people, everyone thinks they got strong legs, right? But nobody really does. That's kind of the thing. We all start off with weak-ass legs. I thought I had strong legs when I started going to the gym. Then, once I actually learned how to train my legs, I realized that my legs were weak as fucking hell. And this is really the part that I think gets glossed over all too often, right? In the type of shit that we see, the type of advice that typically gets handed out on social media these days. This is the part that the bodybuilding ideology and the bodybuilding lore that dominates the modern fitness industry leaves out of the equation pretty much altogether all too often, right? Because it always comes down to, well, you just need to stimulate the muscle in the hypertrophy rep ranges, bro. 8 to 12 reps or 8 to 12 reps, blah, 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 blah. And the legs also respond to sets of 15 and 20 and blah, blah, whatever. And you're right, they do. They do actually respond very well to high rep work, right? High rep leg work is hard as hell, man, especially on squatting exercises, less so on machines, but I digress. But in my experience, the legs do actually grow very well from high rep leg work when it's pushed hard. The problem is that when all we do is absorb this bodybuilder ideology, we skip step one here. We never really build that strength, and we ultimately end up putting the cart before the horse. So you want to know how to get the absolute most out of your high rep leg work to really build slabs of freaking meat on your thighs once you start doing those sets of 10, 15, or even 20 reps on your squats, hopefully. Build some strength in your legs first, man. Look, I don't give a shit what anyone tells you. I don't give a shit what coach, doctor, scientist says about hypertrophy rep ranges. If your legs are weak and you are natty, they will not become big. Point blank. That's the whole story. Now, strong is, of course, relative to the individual, right? So if I start out squatting 95 pounds on day one, then achieving a 275-pound squat or a 315-pound squat is quite a large relative improvement in strength for me. And that strength base, that improvement, that strength base now gives me something to lean on to make that true hypertrophy work much more productive. And like I said, these phases don't have to be done completely distinctly, right? They don't have to be cyclical. They don't have to be one after another. Concurrent periodization is a thing. Strength and hypertrophy are complementary goals. So we can blend these two things together over the course of a mesocycle, or if you prefer, you can keep them distinct and you can work each one cyclically over time. It's your choice. It doesn't really matter which way you choose to do it, so long as you cover all of your bases over time. But really the point is just, if you are not making a concerted effort to get stronger legs as a natty lifter, then you are leaving big gains on the table if your goal is to build a pair of tree trunk thighs. And it just happens that the best way to build stronger legs is to fucking squat. Free weights, different variations, whatever. But the squat is going to create the greatest force production improvements in those leg muscles, and that enhanced force production is going to make high rep leg work on both your squatting variations and on your machine exercises much more productive in the long run. And the real crazy part is, it really doesn't take all that long to build a solid, moderate strength base in the legs, right? Not when you're training properly, programming properly, and recovering properly. Literally like 12 to 24 months, you can build enough strength in your legs to carry you through the next decade of hypertrophy, pure hypertrophy style training, if that's how you want to do it. But if you skip that first step, that all-important first step, you're never going to end up with impressive development. Which leads us to phase number 2 in the secret formula, and I'm sure you've already guessed what it is, but this is where the rep work comes into play, becomes the major focal point of the training. And for this part, I really just want to give you guys my personal experience here, just to kind of illustrate the power of this formula when it is executed well, and when both, not even all that well, actually. I kind of executed it haphazardly myself over the years, and I still ended up with enormous fucking legs. And I'm giving you guys a much more seamless way to actually go through this process without wasting all your fucking time, right? So when the formula is executed well, and both sides of the equation are adhered to with equal ferocity, that is where the monstrous gains are really going to come into play. So looking at me and my haphazard self, in my first 6 years or so in the weight room, pretty much one of my only goals was to squat as much weight as I possibly could, right? I eventually, with that, ended up squatting 530 pounds in knee sleeves at a body weight of about 160 pounds, and I can't even remember. I think I did 545. It might have been 550 with knee wraps on, weighing about 150, maybe 155 pounds, something like that. So I built pretty fucking strong legs, right? And in the process of doing so, they got up to right around 25 inches circumference after 6 or 7 years of hard training. And that was just from fucking strength work alone, right? I hated hypertrophy work. I ignored hypertrophy work out of principle back then. I'm talking that I never went over 5 reps on a set almost ever. And even then, most of my work was triples, doubles, and motherfucking singles, man. Repeating sets, of course, but still, a very low total training volume per session. And with that style of training, my legs got up to 25 inches, and then they stayed there for pretty much the next 3 or 4 years, right? And with that, I basically thought that they were capped at their max size that they were going to get to, unless I got like fucking fat or something like that, right? They were already too big for my frame and for my body weight, even when they were 25 inches. So I figured they weren't going to grow anymore, regardless of what I did. But what happened after that was I sort of switched training styles, right? I stopped worrying so much about what my max back squat was, and I started doing other sorts of fitness-related endeavors, things that I had neglected over the years. And one of the main things there was higher rep work. So, switching styles, one of the very first things I did a few years ago was I tried out the 20 rep squat program again. And it was the first, I had done it when I had just started training. I think I tried it in 2009 for the very first time, and then I thought it was pointless, right? So I didn't do it again for over a decade. That second time around, I was a lot stronger when I embarked on the 20 rep squat program. I got a lot more out of it, and it really, really changed my opinion of hard, high rep leg work, especially on squatting movements. And so over the course of that program, I think I ran it for about 8 weeks or so, but I took my 20 rep max. I started with 315 pounds, and actually I only got 315 for 16 reps in my first session. It took me like 3 or 4 weeks to get 315 for over 20. I ended up doing it for a set of 22. But anyway, I took it from that starting point of 315 all the way up to 335. I hit 335 for a solid set of 20. Probably could have done a little bit more than that, but I was starting to get bored at that point. But along the way, I did also hit, I think it was 345 for a set of 18 and 355 for a set of 16 reps as well. And in just 8 weeks, in put up 3. In those 8 weeks, I was pretty shocked to see that my thighs had ballooned up from 25 inches all the way up to 26 inches. That is 1 inch in 8 fucking weeks. I wrote an article about that shit happening because it blew my fucking mind. It's on my website if you're interested. Now remember, my legs had been 25 inches for years at this point. They'd been stagnant for years. With that shift in training style and busting my ass on that high rep 20 rep sets of squats, they exploded a full inch in just a couple of months. After that, we fast forward to the next 2 years of my training career. And I've been training since then on my version of the conjugate system, right? I've talked a lot about that lately, primarily for athleticism these days. It's pretty much my main goal. Stay as athletic as I possibly can for as long as I possibly can. I'm 35 years old, man. I want to be a monster into my 40s, right? I want to be an athletic beast for as long as I can be. So part of my conjugate work has been, I will do some heavy work on the squat, right? That heavy work consists of 1 max effort single, just 1 rep, 1 time per week, just to keep my legs strong, right? And then the other part of my equation, in terms of my leg work, in terms of my primary leg work, not talking about the shit I'm doing outside the gym, the running and whatnot, or jumping and all that other kind of stuff, as well as the ancillary work for like my hammies and my hips and whatnot. The other part of the equation, though, of my primary leg work is, any guesses? It is high freaking reps, man. So now I'm doing things like heavy split squats for 10 to 15 reps per leg, 3 or 4 sets there, sets of 20 reps on the belt squat, heavy 10 to 15s on the Hatfield squat, high rep front squats, high rep heel elevated front squats, and most recently I've even started doing fucking sets of 10 or higher on the Zercher squat. So I am busting my ass and I'm pushing the limits of this repetition work very hard. And along the way, just out of happenstance, I noticed that my legs have grown another full inch, now up to 27 fucking inches, with the primary variable change being just the simple addition of higher reps on my leg exercises. Now, if your goal is to maximize leg size, again, I don't recommend doing what I did, because I executed this shit. We went over my timeline. I executed it very haphazardly. So I don't recommend staying in the strength zones like I did, just strength zones like I did for as long as I did, right? And it's not how I program this kind of stuff for my clients either. Even those who wish to maximize strength rather than hypertrophy, even for guys like that, I program a mix of strength and hypertrophy work, either concurrently or in phases, but in phases that are much closer together than what I did for myself over the years. So smaller alternating blocks. And I find that either of those works very well. It kind of depends on several factors, some of which being the temperament of the lifter, right? But that is why I'm here, right? To teach you guys my mistakes so that you don't have to make them too. And again, most of my work in the high rep domain has been with free weight leg exercises, right? And obviously those work very well. But at that point, once you kind of gotten to where I am, or not really quite to where I am, but once you have built up that strength base, like I talked about earlier, once you put in your time under the bar, if you kind of now want to just spend more time pushing your rep work really hard, but doing it on things like the leg press or the hack squat or other leg machines, instead of always putting a heavy fucking bar on your back, you'll still get most of the benefits that way, right? I don't think that it hits quite the same. Leg machines ever hit quite the same as free weight leg exercises. But once you got to that point, if you don't want the bar on your back anymore, at least not all the time, then in my opinion, it's probably not a mandatory thing either. And you won't be missing out that much in terms of size gains. You will be missing out in terms of strength gains. So there you go, man. The secret formula for building big-ass, monstrous, meaty tree trunk thighs. Bust your ass and get strong, then keep busting your ass, but do it for higher reps now. And I'm sure I've disappointed a great many of you, but there is simply no way around having to bust your ass hard if you want tree trunk thighs, right? There's a reason why Kino Body copes about having sleek and slender legs, and it's because he lacks the grit required to build those powerful tree trunks, man. Serious leg training is not for the faint of heart. That's why when you see somebody with big ass legs, you should respect that motherfucker, because he has put in his time and he's paid his dues under a barbarically heavy barbell, probably for years on end. And if nothing else, if absolutely nothing else, he can probably teach you a thing or two about how to work really fucking hard. A piece of the puzzle that many of us are lacking these days as we search for instant gratification and easy ways out, hoping to be given something that can only be hard-earned. And look, man, before anyone gets the wrong idea, there is nothing wrong with having different goals than me. In fact, I respect the hell out of anybody who has ambitious goals of any nature, regardless of what they are. There is nothing wrong with actually not wanting big legs. A lot of people probably don't want big legs. Don't say, oh, they chafe together, though. Shut the fuck up. If you don't have big legs, you don't know what happens when you have fucking big legs. Anyway, what I do have a problem with, though, is poor leg training advice, right? So somebody coping about not having big legs and telling you that you can do all this other shit that is not going to give you big legs, or telling you that you shouldn't want them just because they don't want them. If you want something, want it for yourself, man. Don't listen to fucking bullshit fitness influencers. That includes me. The promise, though, of tree trunk thighs in the form of a polished up and sugar-coated turd, that is something that I have a problem with. If someone doesn't have big legs, why are you listening to their leg training advice if your goal is to build big legs? Or even worse, if someone doesn't have big legs and they're telling you that their advice will give you big legs, why would you listen to that? If someone is telling you that you can maximize your leg size without ever going below 8 reps as a natty, then they are full of shit, man. And I don't care what the bodybuilding ideology says, they are full of shit. If someone is promising you that you don't ever have to do squats and that lying on your back and pushing a leg press machine is just as effective with the long-term goal of building big legs, then they are full of shit. Or they simply don't know how natural lifters should train to build big legs. Anyway, just some stuff to keep in mind. That's all I got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you found it informative and thought-provoking as well. If you're interested in training the way that I described in this video, then be sure to head over to my website and pick up a copy of my Conjugate Manual. Now, Enkiri Elite Fitness Conjugate Manual. It contains the exact formula that I describe in this video, a blend of strength work and rep work to help you build a pair of tree trunk thighs of your own, man. It's 33,000 words. It contains a comprehensive, reusable training program that will keep you busy for years, and it's got a bunch of golden tidbits and actionable info in every chapter as well that will serve as a reference piece for the remainder of your training career. Hope you guys enjoyed. I've got nothing but rave reviews so far. Remember to smash the like button before you go. Leave us a love in the comments down below. Share the video, subscribe to my channel, and keep training hard. I will catch you guys next time.